Hi there, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me Shreyansi Singh, and with me as always is my co-anchor Snehi Shah, and over the next 1 hour we'll take you through news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should keep on your radar and tell you what the brokerages are saying as well. But first things first, Snehi, let's take a look at the US markets.
Well, absolutely, and good move coming in from the US markets this morning. Good morning. Let me take you through what the global handover is looking like today. And US stock futures were trading near the flat line last evening, but this is after the S&P 500 is closed above 5,500 for the first time. So record close coming in on your S&P. That's the index to watch out for, because S&P 500 closed at 5,509, up 0.6%. That index is at, and Dow Jones is up almost 0.5%. A 4/10 of an uptick coming in for that index. 162 points higher is where Dow Jones has closed yesterday, and of course Nasdaq continues to outperform both of its peers. Despite the rally seen in S&P 500, Nasdaq has yet again outperformed what the S&P has done yesterday, and 0.8% again, or a 150 point uptick coming in for Nasdaq. Nasdaq is also closed above 18,000 at 18,028 levels. So those are the key levels to watch out for. Those are the levels where the markets have closed actually. And let's talk about some individual movers. Paramount Global shares popped nearly 7% in extended trading on the back of reports from publications that Skydance Media has reached a preliminary agreement to buy National Amusement. So that was the big move coming in for Paramount Global. And during yesterday's main trading session also, I told you what the moves look like. It's very stable, very steady moves coming in, building on to those gains that we saw over Monday and Tuesday. So far, if you take a look at the week to date basis coming in for the US markets, and also the second half of the year has started on a very strong footing for these markets. And S&P continues to rally, but there are also concerns growing across Wall Street that the narrow leadership of the rally may not be sustainable for longer. Remember, the run-up in S&P and Nasdaq has been fueled by market darling Nvidia over the last couple of days, and over the last couple of months in fact, and experts believe that this may not be sustainable overall. And several new economic data points are also scheduled for today. You have the markets will be closing early today on account of the 4th of July holiday, which is the Independence Day tomorrow. So the markets will be closing early in the celebration of that. ADP private payrolls data for June are due. Weekless jobless claims figure are also due. The US trade deficit balance for May. S&P Global Services Purchasing Managers Index. Lots of data points coming out from the US, and most importantly, the minutes of the policy setting FOMC meeting from the June meeting will be out today as well. So watch out for that. And quickly let me take you through what the European markets have also done. Closed in the red. DAX lower by 0.7%, FTSE 0.5% lower, and stock 600 deeply under pressure. 0.5% lower is where that index is as well. But this was on the equity front. Shreyansi, take us through what crude is doing.
Well, absolutely. It's quite interesting what we're seeing play out with crude then. US crude oil pulled back from a 2-month high as traders assess the risk of war between Israel and Hezbollah, while monitoring the potential threat of Hurricane Beryl to Gulf Coast refineries as well. Now, prices at the pump are about 3 cents higher than last week, but still lower than last month when you put it into perspective. Let's take a look at price movements then. And when you take a look at WTI, that hit a high of $84 thereabout earlier in the session, the highest level since April 26, but ultimately closed lower around those $82 per barrel levels. When you take a look at Brent as well, that was around those $87 levels earlier in the session, the highest level since April 30th coming in for that one as well. But that also settled lower when you talk about Brent then. And oil prices largely have gained 6% last month after sagging in May, as geopolitical risk entered the market again. Now, in terms of news flow, 18 Israeli soldiers were injured on Sunday in a drone attack launched by Iran-backed militia Hezbollah, according to the Israel Defense Forces. So that largely is the news flow that is backing oil as well. Let's also take a quick look at gold prices then. Gold prices edged lower as treasury yields held firm, while investors also digested comments coming in from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, and also looked forward to US jobs data due later this week for more signals on US interest rate cuts as well. So when you take a look at price movement for gold as well, spot gold was down about 0.2%, around those 2,300 levels per ounce.
Alright, with that, let's also take a look at all the important cues that you need to be keeping on your radar this morning. And first up, let's just take note of what's been happening back home. Not much is happening today, but globally, you do have a whole lot of cues coming in today, especially on that. Remember, Monday we had the manufacturing PMI data coming in. Today, you have the composite as well as services data, PMI data coming in from all the major economies that we track, be it US, UK, Eurozone, China. Everybody coming out with their composite as well as services PMI data today. Other than that, from the US, like I told you, the minutes of the meeting, weekly jobless claims, API crude stock oil data, all of that will be coming out today as well. Shifting focus back home, let's quickly take a look at what corporate action and board meetings are lined up today. Jyoti Labs AGM will be taking place today, so watch out for that. Aditya Vision AGM will be taking place, and the board will also be mulling a stock split today, so keep a close eye on that as well. GPT Infra Projects will be trading X bonus in the ratio 1:1, so keep a close eye on how that stock behaves in today's trade as well. Now on the telecom front, then you have Airtel and Jio that will be undertaking their price hikes that they had announced a few days ago. That will come into implementation from today, and today is also the last day to buy shares of Dalmia Bharat Sugar as well as Jyoti Labs and Tidewater Oil India to be eligible for their dividend. And on the front of the primary markets, lots of action happening over here as well. You have one IPO making its D-Street debut and two more opening for subscription. The Vraj Iron and Steel IPO will be listing on D-Street today, so we'll keep a close eye on how this new kid on the block lists. And on the flip side, you have Emcure Pharma as well as Bansal Wires. Both of these IPOs will be opening for subscription today. And another news, whole host of commentary expected from global central bank leaders, and the NCLT will also be hearing up to 10 petitions against Baiju, so we'll also be keeping a close eye on that.
Well, absolutely. And moving on from commentary that we heard, let's begin our coverage for the day with the top global stories this morning. Commentary from central bankers. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell expressed satisfaction over the inflation progress made, albeit said that he wants to see more of this before the central bank starts cutting rates. Speaking at a monetary policy conference, also present were ECB President Christine Lagarde as well as Brazil Central Bank Governor Roberto Campos Neto. Meanwhile, Lagarde also said that Taylor Swift's Eras Tour is not the only thing keeping inflation lofty in the Eurozone. Let's hear out slices from what they had to say then.
First quarter of this year, we continue to have solid growth in the first half, actually, solid growth, and a labor market that's still strong, although we've seen a continued rebalancing in the labor market. And inflation, after pausing in the first quarter, now shows signs of resuming its disinflationary trend. So it's a little bit different journey. So where that leaves us is we've made quite a bit of progress in bringing inflation back down toward target, while the labor market has remained strong and growth has continued. We want that process to continue. I think the last reading and the one before it in inflation, the one before it to a lesser extent, do suggest that we are getting back on a disinflationary path. We want to be more confident that inflation is moving sustainably down toward 2% before we start the process of reducing how tight our policy is, of loosening policy. That's what we've said, and what we'd like to see is more data like what we've been seeing recently.
We are very advanced in that disinflationary path, and we are in that sort of slow recovery which came about during the first quarter and which we hope will persevere. But we still believe that it's likely to be a bumpy road until the end of 2024, but we still have target at the end, in the second half of 2025 on the basis of our projections, and the baseline is unequivocal on that front.
Let's keep it going with commentary from central banks. And Chicago Fed Reserve Austin Goolsbee said he sees some warning signs of weakening economy. Now, on one side, you have the Fed Chair Jerome Powell saying he's seeing inflation move down sustainably. On the flip side, you have comments coming in from Goolsbee where he also said that it was the central bank's goal to battle inflation without stressing the labor market, and according to him, policy needs to be restrictive until desired, largely alluding to the inflation hurdle that the Fed has set for itself before it starts easing rates this year.
Moving on, then US job openings rise in May after posting declines in the prior 2 months. However, the trend remained consistent with an easing in labor market conditions that could pave the way for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates this year. The job openings and labor turnover survey showed there were 1.22 vacancies for every unemployed person in May, unchanged from April, and the lowest vacancy to unemployment ratio since 2021.
Alright, let's shift focus then. Let's go and talk about global ratings agency S&P, because that has said that economies such as the United States, France are unlikely to halt the rises in their debt levels over the next few years. The assessment, remember, comes ahead of upcoming elections in the US, Britain as well as France, where governments are pledging to improve economies, social services and voters' daily lives. The primary balance is expected to improve by more than 2% of the GDP cumulatively for their debt to stabilize, while the S&P believes it is unlikely over the next 3 years.
Centering focus on US, where better than expected EV sales in the second quarter provided relief to investors after a sharp downtick in demand triggered by lofty interest rates. Albeit EV makers are still on a bumpy road, General Motors, Rivian and Toyota posted upbeat deliveries while Tesla reported a smaller than expected decline. Analysts also believe that the pressure is here to stay and the car makers will have to resort to cutting costs in manufacturing as well as batteries. They also believe that lackluster Q2 sales are insufficient to forecast a re-acceleration in the industry.
Alright, let's shift focus towards the east. Talk about Japan, because Japan has begun circulating its first new banknotes in 20 years, featuring the three-dimensional portraits of the founders of financial and female education institutions in an attempt to frustrate counterfeiters. Though existing bills stay in use, the train stations, parking lots and ramen shops are scrambling to upgrade payment machines, while the government pushes consumers and businesses to use less cash in a bid to digitize the overall economy. Additionally, the currency authorities plan to print about 7.5 billion newly designed bills by the end of the current fiscal year.
Alright, moving on to some more news and updates. Then UK is set to go to polls on July 4th, and if opinion polls are anything to go by, Labour Party is set to return to power after 14 years. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party is fighting anti-incumbency amid high inflation as well as slow economic growth. Sumita Karir is standing by with all of those important details. Sumita, what can we expect as the world's sixth largest economy goes to polls?
Right, so the UK will hold its first national election in almost 5 years tomorrow. Opinion polls suggest that Indian descent Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party could be punished for failing to deliver on promises made during 14 years of the party being in power. But these past years have been marked by a sluggish economy, declining public services, making the Labour Party race ahead as far as opinion polls are concerned. In fact, its campaign has focused on a single word, and that is change. And that's due to a couple of factors. Number one, the cost of crisis. Well, this is a big election issue. This election, in fact, has been dominated by the cost of living crisis. So slow economic growth coupled with high inflation, high mortgage rates have pushed people to question government's policies. Before Sunak, party member Liz Truss also lasted for just 45 days due to her policies that were stunting economic growth. Number two is immigration. Well, voters also feel that the government has lost control over Britain's borders, given that thousands of asylum seekers have entered the country in recent years. Number three is health. Well, UK's National Health Service is plagued with long waiting lists for everything from dental care to cancer treatment, and hence these are part of election manifestos of both the parties as well, besides issues like an increase in defence spending, raising money, wealth creation and building homes. Now, the Conservative Party says that its economic plan is now working. However, it's been facing one challenge after another: the global financial crisis in 2010, then leaving the European Union, and then the cost of living crisis post the Russia-Ukraine war. So there's that much pressure on Sunak, who called snap elections hoping to benefit from a summer election. Now, from an India standpoint, FTA with India is being seen as high priority for both the parties. In fact, because getting this right will actually mean higher economic growth, increased private sector investment, and both sides have been supporting this. Labour Party has also been claiming to seek a new partnership, including the FTA with India. All eyes now on Friday when the results start trickling in.
All right, Samita, that's absolutely spot on. All eyes will be on the election tomorrow and subsequently when the results come out from the UK. But let's shift focus back home. And if Monday was about coming of the age of the parliamentarian Rahul Gandhi, who rained fire on PM Modi and the government, then yesterday was all about PM Narendra Modi fighting fire with fire. In a marathon 135-minute speech, which means more than 2 hours long, the PM responded to every charge made by Rahul Gandhi. Terming Rahul's emotionally charged speech as a childish tantrum, PM made a jibe on Congress using iconic movie Shole's mossy character that Congress is like a failed student, which is actually celebrating yet another failure. The PM also dismissed Rahul's charge on the Agniveer scheme and the NEET paper leak, claiming that while government is committed to defence reforms, he also assured that the nation and the student community by stating that the government is working on war footing to end paper leaks and no culprit will be spared. Let's go across and listen into the excerpts of PM Modi from the Parliament.
10 साल के अल्पकाल में हम 10 नंबर से इकोनॉमी को 5 नंबर पे ले गए। अब हम नेक्स्ट लेवल पर जाने के लिए जिस गति से निकले हैं, अब हम देश की इकोनॉमी को नंबर 3 पर ले जाएंगे। राज्यों में, उनके राज्यों में जिस प्रकार से आर्थिक कदम ये उठा रहे हैं, ये वो रास्ता आर्थिक अराजकता की तरफ देश को घसीटने वाला है। भविष्य ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन से जुड़ा है, ई व्हीकल से जुड़ा हुआ है। भारत को ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन का हब बनाने के लिए भी हम पूरी तरह संकल्पबद्ध है।
Moving on then, time to get you the latest on the Hathras tragedy. Over 100 people have lost their lives as devotees suffocated in a stampede that took place at a religious congregation. The stampede occurred during a crowded religious gathering, leading to chaos and a significant number of casualties. The exact cause of the stampede is still under investigation. PM Modi expressed condolences and announced 2 lakh rupees ex gratia compensation for the next of kin of those who lost their lives and a sum of 50,000 for the injured as well. Also listen into what he had to say about the incident.
जिन लोगों की इस हादसे में जान गई है, मैं उनके प्रति अपनी संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं सभी घायलों के जल्द से जल्द ठीक होने की कामना करता हूं। राज्य सरकार की देखरेख में प्रशासन राहत और बचाव कार्य में जुटा हुआ है। केंद्र सरकार के वरिष्ठ उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार के लगातार संपर्क में है। मैं इस सदन के माध्यम से सभी को ये भरोसा देता हूं कि पीड़ितों की हर तरह से मदद की जाएगी।
Let's keep it going with this unfortunate tragedy. And my colleague from the Times Network, Priyank, was at the hospital earlier where most of the injured people were rushed for treatment. Let's take a look at that ground report that he filed earlier.
It was an attack fiasco which happened at this Prathmik Swasth Kendra in Hathras, and after sending all those injured towards this particular hospital, the ambulances are leaving from the location. This is the hospital which was full with chaotic scene. This is the same hospital where we have seen that how multiple people were brought here, they were injured, and after the DGP and the Chief Secretary, who have already met the injured at this hospital, they have left for the location. It was very painful for those individuals who saw these scenes of the bodies lying here. It was all over the place, and now the injured have been moved from this location. Injured को यहाँ से shift कर दिया गया है? कितने injured थे मैम?
96 थे यहाँ से, 96 थे। उनको हाथरस सबको शिफ्ट किया गया।
और कैजुअलिटी मैक्सिमम यहाँ यहीं पे आई थी?
जी, कैजुअलिटी मैक्सिमम यहीं पर थी। चोट नहीं, जो जितने डेड बॉडीज थी अधिकतर में चोट के निशान किसी को नहीं थे। इंटरनल होंगे, एक्सटर्नल नहीं थे।
All right, let's also go across to my colleague Prerit, who's standing by at the location where the terrible incident took place. Let's take a look at the ground report that he filed as well.
इस वक्त मैं सिकंदरा राव के उस इलाके में मौजूद हूं जहां पर बीते दिन एक भयावह हादसा हुआ, जहां सैकड़ों की संख्या में लोगों ने अपनी जान गंवा दी है। पहले मैं आपको घटनास्थल की तस्वीर दिखा रहा हूं। देखिए, यही वो घटनास्थल है जहां पर बेकाबू भीड़ इस मिट्टी से फिसलते हुए इस दलदल में जा गिरी और उसके बाद यहां पर एक एक करके कईयों की मौत हो चुकी है। ये देखिए, यहाँ पे इस मौके पर फॉरेंसिक की टीम पहुंच चुकी है और फॉरेंसिक की टीम इस पूरे इलाके की घेराबंदी कर रहे, उसके बाद छानबीन करने में जुटी हुई है। वहीं मैं दूर हिस्से में दिखा जाऊँ कि देखिए किस तरीके से डॉग स्क्वाड के जरिए भी इस पूरे इलाके को तलाशने की कोशिश की जा रही, खंगालने की कोशिश की जा रही कि कहीं कोई और किसी का शव ना पड़ा हो यहाँ पे। तो देख सकते हैं कि अलग अलग तरीके से तमाम जो फॉरेंसिक टीम के जो लोग हैं वो यहाँ पे छानबीन करने में जुटे हुए, ताकि और इस इलाके की पूरे तरीके से घेराबंदी की गई है ताकि किसी भी तरीके से जो यहाँ पे अवशेष हैं, जो यहाँ पे सबूत मिल सकते हैं, उसके साथ कोई छेड़छाड़ ना हो। भीड़ की इतनी ज्यादा बेकाबू रही है, वो इस बात से आप अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं तस्वीरों को देख करके कि देखिए जो श्रद्धालु थे उनके चप्पल किस तरीके से यहाँ बिखरे हुए हैं। ये श्रद्धालुओं के उन चप्पल हैं जो बिखरे हुए हैं और भीड़ इतनी ज्यादा बेकाबू थी कि हजारों की संख्या में सीधे इस कीचड़ में, इस खेत में जा गिरे, जिसके बाद से यहाँ पर लोगों की जो है वो यहाँ पर कईयों की मौत हो गई है। तो देखिए, यहाँ पे तमाम जो अलग अलग जो टीम है वो यहाँ पहुंच रही है और यहाँ पे पूरे तरीके से इस पूरे इलाके की घेराबंदी करने की कोशिश कर रही है। और ये जो मिट्टी है इसमें काफी ज्यादा फिसलन है क्योंकि इसमें काफी ज्यादा चिकनाहट है। और यहाँ पर जब जो स्वयंभू बाबा थे जिन्हें लोग सुनने आए थे, जब वो यहाँ से गुजर रहे थे तो उनकी मिट्टी, उनके चरणों के धूल, यानी कि जिस जगह से वो गुजर रहे थे उस मिट्टी लेने को लेकर के श्रद्धालु यहाँ पहुंचे थे। और उसके बाद से धीरे धीरे भीड़ इतनी ज्यादा बेकाबू हो गई कि भीड़ पूरे तरीके से असंतुलित होते हुए इस खेत में गिरी और उसके बाद कईयों की मौत हो गई है।
All right, Prerit, thanks for that unfortunate update coming in. Thanks for taking us through everything that happened and giving us a detailed snapshot of how it took place. Unfortunate news coming in from Hathras and UP, over 100 dead in a stampede. But on that somber note, viewers, we'll slip into a very short break. When we return, we'll take a look at how the Asian markets have opened up. So you stay tuned. Hi there, welcome back. Still watching Market Cafe on ET now. Now, all eyes are going to be on the big event at the end of this month. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is going to be presenting the Union Budget 2024 as early as the next couple of weeks. And the automotive industry is hopeful that the government will give further impetus to the auto sector through announcements in the budget. Automakers want an increase in capital expenditure on infra and push for green mobility through electric vehicles. Let's listen in to some of the voices and what they expect this budget to hold for their sector.
All sustainable vehicles, green vehicles, which are offering lower fossil fuel consumption, much lower fossil fuel consumption, or much lower carbon emissions, should get better treatment than traditional ICE. That's the only case we are making, because that will promote consumers to adopt cleaner and better and more efficient and less fossil fuel consuming technologies going forward, which is going to be very important, particularly given the fact that this will add to the demand for the EV parts and therefore help in creating the ecosystem for localized EV powertrain manufacturing much faster, and therefore benefit the entire ecosystem.
People want luxury cars, they want safer cars, and therefore we would be keenly watching that the capital expenditure on infra, especially roads and infra, continues, because this is something that will drive growth, not only for us, but I think it also drives economic development. So that's one thing that we are keenly looking forward. The second thing, of course, we when we spoke about electrification, and here the government has already a concessional rate of 5% GST. We understand GST is not part of budget, but can there be a long-term commitment from the government that these kind of tax incentives will continue for at least 8 to 10 years? So I think some clear commitment on the electrification and the tax structures, combined with a bigger outlay maybe on road infrastructure, because India is a large country, the more and the better roads will help in multiple ways apart from sales of cars.
Alright, let's move on then. And from Amrit Bharat train for the masses to running Vande Bharat sleeper trains, the Railway Ministry is eyeing a massive transformation in the passenger segment with a higher outlay for the sector as well. Sources say that the roadmap will be part of the upcoming railway budget. My colleague Sameer Dikshit is standing by with more details. Sameer, tell us a little more about what's really in the pipeline then.
Sources have confirmed that government is going to continue its focus on the massive upgradation and the expansion of infrastructure, and in the same direction we will see a higher budgetary allocation for the railways as well. Around 25 to 30% higher budgetary allocation year-on-year basis that we can expect from the government announcement might be there in the upcoming budget, and this means that for FY 2024-25 the budgetary allocation for railways will be somewhere close to 2.95 lakh crore to 3 lakh crore, and the higher budgetary allocation means that railways is looking for a massive transformation in the passenger side as well as when it comes to the digital service side. When we talk about the passenger side, Amrit Bharat train, popularly known as Jan Sadharan train, railway plans to roll out 250 Amrit Bharat train that have general class and the sleeper class coaches in next 5 to 7 years. For this year itself, railway has set a target to roll out 25 Amrit Bharat train, and not just Jan Sadharan train but also a clear focus on Vande Bharat train as well. For the first time, the sleeper version of Vande Bharat train will be out on tracks. The trial is likely to begin by 15th of August this year. Railway targets to roll out around 6 Vande Bharat sleeper train on long route journey, whether it be Delhi, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai or Chennai, Hathras. So in addition to Vande sleeper train, Railway is also looking to roll out around 8 to 10 Vande metro train that will provide intercity connectivity somewhere around 150 kilometers of running that will be done through the Vande metro trains, for example route like Delhi, Dehradun. So that is what Railways is looking at. So apart from passenger side, Railway is also likely to come up with a super app, the IRCTC super app, and with this super app, Railway is planning to attract new customers in the freight side, especially in the parcel segment, the e-commerce entities like Amazon and Flipkart. Railways is looking to infuse to enhance the investment in Concor, the Container Corporation of India. So with the increased investment, Railways is also looking to provide more wagons to Concor that will help to increase the freight basket. So that's a larger plan that Railways has. But in addition to all this, the clear focus on Kavach, the safety mechanism will also be there. And for the same, the higher budgetary allocation for the safety will be done for the FY 2024-25, and Railway targets to cover 4,500 kilometers of rail route network through the Kavach system. So that's what we can expect from the upcoming railway budget.
All right, Sameer, thanks so much for all of those details coming in. All eyes are going to be on the budget and especially all the announcements that come on the railway front. But a day after the SEBI directed market infrastructure institutions to implement a uniform charging structure, Zerodha CEO Nitin Kamath has listed the impact of SEBI's new policy on the broking industry. Ankur is here to tell us more on that. Ankur, take it away.
Yes, Zerodha founder and CEO Nitin Kamath has said there will be definitely an impact of the new circular of SEBI on MIIs. He has mentioned that the impact will be ranging from 10 to 50% depending on the brokers, but for his company the impact will be 10%. As far as the long-term strategy for the company, he has mentioned that the company may need to change the way they are charging their customers. In fact, he has said that time may not be there for zero brokerage. He says that in all likelihood have to let go the zero brokerage structure or increase the brokerage charges in F&O segment per se. Remember, SEBI had given a new direction to MIIs that there should be uniform transaction charges structure. There should not be a case where the brokerages are charged based on the volumes which they are generating, but it should be the same for all the brokerage houses. And now the discount brokerage houses like Zerodha, which were charging customers or providing a service like zero trade charges, may have to increase their charges to offset the impact of SEBI's new circular.
All right, Ankur, thanks so much for all of those details. Let's keep it going with this announcement and let's see what Jefferies has to make of this order coming in from SEBI. Now, SEBI has ended the arbitrage on the exchange transaction charges. Exchanges have been advised to pass on the lower cost benefit to clients. Jefferies believes this event can trigger an end to zero broking models, and the tightening of F&O norms can be a risk for exchanges, for brokers, and for clearing members as well. And regulatory risks are the lowest for AMCs, wealth managers, and your RTAs, which is a registrar and transfer agents. Jefferies says that the capital market players may face divergent regulatory risks, and SEBI's order will impact discount brokers up to 8 to 10% of their revenue and 25% of their profit before tax. Zerodha, which is the largest discount broker, may now levy fees, and that is what Ankur was also telling us, that this is a possibility that we could see coming in. And regulatory tightening of the F&O can affect exchanges and clearing members. Traditional brokers will face low impact of the recent order, but the F&O norms will affect them as well. So that's a lowdown on what Jefferies is making of this very crucial announcement that we have seen coming in from the SEBI.
Alright, then let's move on and let's get a little more stock specific. Then FII holding in HDFC Bank slightly decreased in the June quarter, which led to a higher foreign investor room in the stock as well. This would lead to other adjustments on indices as well. Soumit is standing by to explain exactly what this means.
Well, HDFC Bank will remain in focus given the fact that they have come out with the shareholding data. Now, why is this shareholding data important? Because this data has been considered by MSCI to decide HDFC Bank's weightage on the MSCI index. Now, if you see as per the June 2024 shareholding data, the FI holding in HDFC Bank has come down to around 54.83. Now, this number of FI holding is also the lowest in multiple quarters. But what is more important here is that because of the fact that the shareholding of FIs have fallen in the June quarter, the FI headroom has now increased to around 25.9% as against 24.95% in the March 2024 quarter. Now, whenever the FI headroom increases above the 25% mark, the adjustment factor to consider the weightage increases from 0.5 to 1 times. Now, in the earlier review which happened in May of MSCI, the headroom was a bit lower than 25%. It missed the mark by around 5 basis points, and hence the higher weightage of HDFC Bank was not considered. But now, given the fact that the headroom has increased to 25.9%, higher weightage will be considered, and most likely HDFC Bank's weightage in the MSCI index would increase from around 3.8% currently to close to 7.2 to 7.5%. Now, because of this increased weightage, analysts are expecting inflows of anywhere between $3 to $4 billion to come in, which is nearly 7 times its 20-day average volume. Now, this MSCI announcement for this is expected on August 13th, and flows regarding the same is expected on August 13th. Now, though this announcement is nearly a month away, over the short term one needs to keep an eye out for the HDFC Bank Q1 results, which are on July 20th, and from the last 1 month lows, if you see, the stock is up nearly 16%, which could also be because some of the part of the street was expecting this higher weightage of MSCI. So that's the reason some flows might have come in already into HDFC Bank, and hence the stock is up nearly 16%. But if you look at the valuations of HDFC Bank, they are still below its 5-year average of around 3 times. The 12-month forward valuation for HDFC Bank currently stands at around 2.6 times.
Alright, Swami, thanks so much for taking us through that. Remember, HDFC Bank stellar moves yesterday as well, 1.5% higher where that stock closed, the only gainer in an otherwise pressured Nifty Bank index. But on that note, viewers, we'll slip into a very short break. More stock specific news and updates when we return.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, as promised, let's take a look at what brokerages had to say bright and early this morning, and Gaurav is standing by with just that snapshot.
Well, yes. First, let's begin with Power Financials, because now Bernstein has initiated on PFC and REC, both with outperform rating. For PFC, they have given a target price of 620 rupees, while for REC, they have given a target price of 653 rupees. What they believe is that investors are actually underestimating the duration and intensity of this power cycle that we are witnessing. They also believe that the NPAs for these companies are likely to be lower, and they also show some better correlation with power prices and stocks if we compare it with the banks. And apart from that, if we also look at ROE front, they have better better ROE and growth aspects if we compare it with the power peers, and that is why they are being bullish on both the counters, which is PSC and REC. And next, let's also look at M&M Finance, because we have got the Q1 update and brokerages have actually maintained their neutral rating here. So Citi has maintained their neutral rating with a target price of 310 rupees on the stock. What they believe is that growth was actually broadly in line with what Citi was estimating, and they also believe that there was a seasonality effect. If you look at gross NPAs, they were a little higher, but they believe that NIMs could actually surprise and could be positive if we compare it with Q4. Apart from that, they also believe that we may see some moderation in NIMs from Q4. And lastly, they also believe, if we also look at Jefferies, they have maintained hold rating with a target price of 294 rupees, because they also believe that Q1 updates were pretty in line with what they were expecting, and they believe that ROA could be better than estimated. So definitely watching out on these two counters on the back of the brokerage note.
Gaurav, thanks so much for taking us through that. But remember, earnings season, the Q1 earnings season is just around the corner, and Q1 updates continue to trickle in. Largely upbeat numbers coming in from retailers like V2 and V-Mart. You also have updates from Avenue Supermart. My colleague Winnie, who tracks the sector closely, is joining us with the highlights. Good morning, Winnie.
Good morning. Yes, talking about the important Q1 updates on the retail side, it's interesting that's coming in. Now, V2 retail managed to see a strong growth. They are more in those tier 2, tier 3 cities. SSSG growth of around 37% on a year-on-year basis. Revenue also seeing a growth of 57%, coming in at 414 crores as per the operational update. What you're watching out for in terms of store addition, they managed to open 10 stores during this Q1, and their sales per square feet also has seen a growth, this time at 1,059 rupees. Versus 798 rupees in the last year same time. V-Mart, this also has managed to see a strong growth. Analysts are saying that the revenue growth is better than what they were expecting. So interesting to watch out for V-Mart. Also 16% YOY growth in terms of revenue. 790 crores is what the total revenue is at. SSSG is standing at 11%, and overall the company has added 7 new stores during this quarter. So yes, store addition also, the pace seems like it's continuing for the company. Avenue Supermart, on the other hand, not that great in terms of the growth that one is seeing. Analysts are not too happy with it. Standalone revenue is seeing a growth of 18%. When you look at the revenue growth number, 18% is lower than 20% which we saw in the last quarter. So pace of growth surely seeing a bit of a moderation there. 6 stores is what they're added. Analysts are expecting 50 store additions. So seems like in the next couple of quarters maybe they will be pacing up the store addition. That's something to watch out for. Though revenue per store, efficiency metrics is that has surely started seeing an improvement. Revenue per store at 8,613 rupees versus 8,311 rupees. And overall, Morgan Stanley maintains their overweight rating. They're saying growth is below expectation. Operational metrics is improving, while Citi also maintaining a sell rating. No signs of growth is what they're seeing. So yes, a moderation is what we could see coming in for Avenue Supermart.
Absolutely, Vinny. Thanks for that update. Let's keep it going with Q1 updates. Then let's take a look at M&M Finance. And in terms of their June disbursements, there was an uptick of 3% on a year-on-year basis coming in. When you take a look at their Q1 disbursements as well, there was a 5% year-on-year uptick coming in there as well. Let's take a look at collection efficiency then, and that stood at 95% versus 96% for M&M Finance. So that's the roundup there. Let's also take a quick look at NLC India then, because when you take a look at their Q1 update, you're looking at coal production, which had an uptick of about 5.3% on a year-on-year basis. In terms of growth in lignite production, they saw a 22.1% growth coming in there as well. And in terms of gross power generation, that increased and also increased to 7,553 million units thereabout. Let's also take a quick look at IEX then. In terms of their Q1 update, a couple of things that they've reported that are important. In terms of the June electricity volume, there was an uptick of 25% coming in there. And in terms of total volumes, there was an uptick of 21% coming in there as well. So that largely is all the updates that we had for you in terms of the Q1 updates.
Alright, lots to watch out for in terms of Q1 updates, the stocks that brokerages are flagging off, as well as all the stocks that will continue to be in news today on the back of their individual news flow. But on the back of that, this is the end of Market Cafe for today, and Shreyansi and I will bid you goodbye along with the team that put this show together. But as we do that, you still stay tuned to the channel because the market takes all the action.